Now I'm 2 minutes late. Welcome to our meeting tonight. We do need something, we need the other blocks to start. We're so excited that you're here, and we'll just kind of go slow for a minute while we get started. Richard Pratt from Sherwood Hills has offered to give our opening prayer, and we'll go straight from that to Craig Christensen doing the pledge. And then we'll just let Rachel take it straight to the update on the Rock Canyon Trailhead. How's that? Sound good? Okay, let's go from there.
Our Heavenly Father, we ask thee to bless us as we proceed in this meeting, that we might have thy Spirit to be with us. And then we'll be able to make decisions and have a discussion that will be a benefit to our city and each other. We pray for this blessings humbly in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. Amen.
Could you join me in the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we're just going to give a little parks update. Rock Canyon Park and the Rock Canyon Trailhead. On this, so Rock Canyon Park, the asphalt walking path has been resurfaced. The cracks were cut out and repaved with a new seal coat layer. The interior bowl parking lot asphalt has been replaced. And walking path lighting has been replaced 50%. The remainder of the lighting will be done in 2025. Okay, so very important. We're beginning a lot of vandalism from the rocks at Rock Canyon. So the landscaping rock was installed less than a year ago, and now most of it is missing because kids take the rocks and throw them at the water tank. And now they're tired of throwing them at the water tank, and they've been throwing them at the restroom building, and you can see a dent right here, what's happening. So please make sure your kids, grandkids, neighbor kids don't throw rocks. And then the trailhead improvements, full restroom replacement and upgrade, improved interpretive area with a kids climbing zone, new pergola and amphitheater, new interpretive trail loops with improved surfacing, new parking lot extension, and they're looking to open before the end of October. So they said, look for updates on social media for the opening on that. Any questions that I can pass along to parks about this new park and trailhead? Okay. Oh, yes.
Will they be replacing those rocks?
That's a good question. I will ask him. So, yeah, so I'll ask if they'll be replacing the rocks or if they're gonna have a different plan or what they're doing on that, but thank you. And then I'll get back to you on that. Okay. Okay, and let's see. Is David Bragonje here?
I did ask Rachel if we could pop up, and it sounds like it
sorry.
won't really be pertinent.
Yeah.
But the update on the Northeast Area Plan.
Yeah.
Takes a whole minute since we aren't to 6:15 yet.
Let me skip over that. Okay, so just really short update on the Northeast Neighborhood Plan draft, which is for the Riverbottoms, North Timpview, and Sherwood Hills neighborhoods. It's nearing completion. They've collaborated with a dedicated citizen committee throughout the drafting process, and they're excited to hear from more residents. So they said to keep an eye out on the neighborhood Facebook pages for a post that will include a link to Open City Hall, where you will be able to add feedback. Your insights will help us make sure the plan reflects the voice of the community, and we look forward to hearing your comments. I don't know if you can even read this. This is, the contact information for Jessica Danicki and Mary Barnes. They're the planners that are working on this plan. So pretty much the update is they're working on it. They are gonna be asking for resident input soon. And, I know a lot of people don't do Facebook, so we'll try to email that out also.
Nice. Ask you a question about neighborhood plans. Yeah. Do all the neighborhoods have a plan?
No.
What does that mean that some don't have a plan, some do? We're hearing about a plan. and-
Mr. Ardmore. Aaron Ardmore is the city planning supervisor, and so he can talk about why some neighborhoods have plans and kind of the process.
Thank you, thank you for here. Yeah, so those that do a specific area or neighborhood plans, they rely instead on the general plan. So these neighborhood plans are kind of a more drilled down version of the general plan, they become appendices to that general plan. So if you don't have a neighborhood plan for your neighborhood, it's just relying on the general plan goals and objectives.
Why not have a neighborhood plan for every neighborhood?
We're working through them, so it takes a while for each one, so we've been combining them recently, and that's helping speed it up, but we're getting there.
Alrighty, look at that, we're ahead of our scheduled time. So as you may have noticed, for those of you who are in the room, if you have a question, raise your hand, we'll try and get a mic to you. Mostly because it helps for the recording and for those people online. They cannot hear you, even though I can hear you. So we're gonna try and keep.
So actually, it's the opposite now. Finally, after 2 years, we have an AV system in the room. So the people on Zoom can hear even if you whisper. They can hear everything. But in the room, sometimes you can't hear, so we have the mics, so if you can't hear it in the room, but just be aware that everyone on Zoom can hear your whispered conversation.
So keep the side conversations to a minimum, please. All right, so we're gonna turn the time over to Mr. Bragonje for his presentation. If you weren't here before, he's come back with a revisit, a different project plan. So we're gonna give him some time, and same thing, we're gonna try and keep this civil, and we're gonna try and keep it brief. This is just, Rachel, you probably don't, I didn't warn you, that slide about the process. This is
Yeah,
the beginning.
I do have it. Okay, so again, we want to be respectful because the developers are not required to attend neighborhood meetings. And so we want to be respectful because we want developers to keep coming to our neighborhood meetings. Some thoughts to consider are what are the potential benefits or downsides to the project? And why is this change better than what currently exists? A question we commonly get is, can we ask for a development agreement? The answer is no. Residents and city staff cannot ask for a development agreement, but you can instead ask, how will you guarantee to address my concerns? And maybe they'll proffer a development agreement. If you still have questions after this presentation, the project slides are available online, and if you have an agenda, the planner's email and phone number are on the agenda, and the planner is the best person to speak to if you have questions on that. And showing where we're at in the process. Oh, there we go. So right now, we're out of the review process, right? We're in it right now. I think that's right. Is it still, I think Public Works.
It's in its first review.
It's in its first review. So right now, we're in the review process. We've gone from the idea, they made an application, we're in the review process. Once all the plans and everything they look okay, they have all the information they need, then it'll go to a planning commission meeting. The planning commission will make a recommendation to the city council, and then the final decision is made by the city council. So just be aware that since we are in the very beginning of the review process, what you see here tonight may change from what you see at the planning commission, depending on if the city needs them to make some changes to their plans. But I will turn the time over to the developer, and there is a clicker up there.
So Matt has the other line, if you'll take that from him, I'll be back here and we're gonna let him present for, how much is on the agenda for him?
Thanks.
We have half an hour.
So we're gonna let him present for just 10 minutes and try not to ask any questions and interrupt. And then we'll try to open this for about 10 minutes of questions, and maybe a final 10 minutes if we still need it. How's that?
Great, perfect. I noticed Sharon said my last name right, that's how I know I've been here enough times when my last name is pronounced correctly, so that's great. I also didn't know I didn't have to come, Aaron told me I had to come to these meetings, and now I'm here, I'm in the meeting, they say I don't have to come here, but. There's, thank you. I just wanna, so currently the zoning here is agriculture, I just want to start out by reading this sentence real quick right here. This is for A1 agricultural zone of the current zoning of the property, purposes and objectives. The A1 zone is designed and intended to protect agricultural uses from an encroachment of urban development until such time as residential, commercial, or industrial uses in such areas becomes necessary and desirable. According to the current uses and objectives that are here, we are there. There's very little agricultural zone left. There's just a few little pieces along University. This is one of them, maybe the larger one. There's maybe 2 or 3 other little agricultural spots left. So for the zoning here, we are ready. There is demand and it is desirable for a different use for the property. I will also proffer that some of the uses that would be allowed under agricultural zoning would not be favorable for the cities and residents here. It's not just, peach trees and baby lambs that can go in agricultural zone. You can have main farms are allowed. You can have storage of recreational vehicles. You can have processing facilities for agricultural products. There are things that are allowed in agricultural zoning that people would not like in this area. So, I did see a question on Facebook. Someone asked about why this parcel is included here where the trail is. That parcel doesn't need to be included. That's part of land that I own, but they're not proposing to build anything there or do anything there. So that, and I indicated that Aaron and I just had a brief conversation about that. So anyway, if there's any concern there, that can that's not included in what I'm talking about. Let's see if I can use this right. Oh, there we go. Okay. Here's what we're looking at doing. And I know the laser on YouTube, right? Oh, perfect. So the proposal is for 16 townhomes. Many of you were here last time. I proposed a condo project. This is about a fourth of the units that we were talking about before. I think just by having a fourth of the units, that alleviates some of the different concerns and questions that were having before. The main one being sewer, that was an issue that maybe we didn't talk as much about in the meeting when I was here, but there's a limit to the sewer capacity that is available in Provo in this area, and fewer units addresses that concern. The access that I'm showing here, I just want to point out this road here is a future road that perhaps one day Provo will put in to address access issues here. I would ask my staff to just show that the project that I'm proposing will interact with that new road design. This is different than what I put in this time. This is kind of a private drive. It doesn't interact with the Indian Trailhead. Last time I was here, I showed a connection to the Indian Trailhead. That's a discussion that we're having still with the city. I have some meetings set up, so this is still just a proposal here. We don't know that this will happen or that it would be right here or somewhere else. As far as units that would go here, the units that we're looking at putting here, I don't know if we have. Let me see up the pictures. I don't know that I saw the pictures. No, not that one. No. Oh, there we go. This is what I look at. So, if you don't like style, architect, and finished work, that's fine. It's very much just progress. Space up there. Some ideas, concepts. People who are better at picking that kind of stuff will be involved. in the future. But the basic idea here is important to understand what would be built here. It would be something like this, a garage and an entry, a door, parking on the main floor, and then you would walk up to your main living area on the middle floor. That's where you have kitchen, family room. The downside, of course, being you have to walk upstairs to get there. But the benefit is once you're up there, then you have much more space. You have better light coming in. The design that there, half of the units would be end units, so half of the units are interior units. With this design, your main living space, you have light coming in from both the front and back. And then on the upstairs, you have bedrooms. The way I have it drawn up, probably 3 bedrooms. This is what we put in. This is not a new idea. This isn't my idea. This is a product that's out there. It's in the marketplace. It's even being constructed right now on University Avenue. Last time I was here, there was a question about soil studies. I've done a soil study since then. The soil is great in the area, no water table issue. The kind of soil that there is ideal to build on, as we thought it would be. It's a gravel pit. Gravel is an ideal foundation material. There's no fault on the area. The closest fault is 0.3 miles away. I've done that study. There's a previous study done by the gas company, a slope stability analysis, where they did a bunch of drilling. Provo City has just done some drilling for their substation expansion as well in that area. This is fast becoming the most geologically studied spot in the city. I have all kinds of reports, and I found out Dave Lamel did the study more than 20 years ago as well. We have a lot of geological information on this site. It's a great place to build. And with that, I don't know, about 10 minutes session, we'll open it up. You good?
Questions?
I'll just some questions.
So 2 questions. One, your last plan seemed to address the slope kind of issues that are right there. I'm curious, how do you address the steepness of that slope? And the second one is, could you expand, or maybe Aaron could expand on the sewer capacity issue? And how this kind of addresses that, because I was under the impression that it did allow meeting to do, so I'd love to just maybe on those 2 points.
Yeah, maybe I'll take the first one and let Eric talk about sewer. So I'm gonna get the back button to work here.
Sorry.
Where's the computer? Back there.
When did it reach?
Okay, so on this, we're mostly in front of the slope to begin with, so we're not proposing to build into the hillside. The last time we had the double-decker parking garage that was doing all kinds of retaining against the hill, and now we're just out in front of that. So we do show a little bit of retaining there. It's hasn't all been engineered yet. Most likely we would have a little bit of retaining kind of on the corner of the buildings. Right here is what we need to retain. This site right here, though, is basically flat at this point.
I'm sorry, the people on Zoom with the microphone, it's causing an echo with the microphones in the room. So if you have a loud voice, can you not use the microphone?
Okay.
Switch.
Yes. Go ahead.
Sure.
So I'll try to address the sewer issue. So the sewer issue was capacity is fine here, but further down the line, it wasn't. And that's based on the modeling that they've done off the general plan. So the general plan that they modeled off of that said it was gonna be okay before the request for the higher zone. If you follow me, this property was marked at 4 units per acre. So the sewer capacity from here all the way down to the station is okay as long as we stay in that range, and that's what he's proposing now.
Another project that came in about the same time, that really large one,
4800 North.
this fits, that one still doesn't.
That one still would need work down the line, yes.
So we're talking 4 separate buildings, or 4 each.
Yep, 2 5-plexes, 2 3-plexes.
David, do you have a picture a little better than this as far as placement on the lot? I can't see the whole lot here.
Yeah, no, it's good. I feel like I've stared at it enough. I can just see right through it and know exactly where it is, but.
Where's the substation?
Where's the substation? Where's the trail?
Okay, substation is right up here.
Okay.
In this area, the trail is up above, right up here. So I don't know if you've been to the site, if you go to it, this little parking area here that we're proposing would sit about in the back of the level area that's there now. So yeah, again, trail is up above. In fact, you can see by the parcel boundaries here that we're mostly building on, you know, we are building just on this one parcel.
So you have only 6 slots for 16 apartments?
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. That shows so they're townhomes. They have garages. This side right here has a driveway as well. So each unit of the 5 plexes would have 4 parking spots. Here, you know, we put this in here and proposed this without driveways on this side. I think there's a good chance we'll nix this and just push the buildings back a little bit more and have the driveways on this side as well. And I think that's what will happen.
So before you nix that, if you're talking about 3-bedroom units, I know people in Provo, because it is legal to have 3 unmarrieds in a unit, where they've rented it out. So they have 3 bedrooms, 3 people renting the place. And so we've got no parking for the 3rd person. And there's really nowhere for anybody to park here, right? They couldn't park on Canyon Road. It just wouldn't be safe. So just you know, if you would be willing to overpark it, I think it would be helpful for your project, frankly, because I think you'd get a better.
So, and that's actually what we were thinking. By adding driveways here instead of this parking, each of these units would have 1 more parking space. So then they would have 4, 2 in, 2 out. So yeah, you'd have 4 per unit.
Are they double car garages?
Yes.
So what is the size of the area you're building? Well, what's the size of the area you own? What are we looking at project units per acre?
Total property I own there is 7¼ acres. As far as the site where we're building right here it's only around 2 acres.
So, but you're proposing 16, which is, like Aaron said, within almost the agricultural zone units per acre.
Oh, no, I think he means the planning that the engineering department did. They planned on about that much in their master plan.
Right, so my point is, I'm wondering, units per acre, why aren't you asking for an LDR zone? For height or number of buildings? Why have we gone to MDR instead of just an LDR? I think you're within an LDR zone with your project.
I don't know, Aaron, do you know?
I think once you remove that top parcel, that doesn't need to be a part of the rezone because there's nothing on it. You're actually just above LDR, so that threshold is gonna be over that threshold to be in the MDR.
I would disagree because it's only, that top parcel is only about 2 acres. If we're talking about the total.
The top parcel's less, this was an acre, a little over an acre.
So if he has 7 and we subtract 2, we're still at 5 acres total.
There's 4.17 is this parcel.
Or there.
4 acres at, in the LDR is 12 units per acre. That still would give him 48 possible. He's only asking for 16. There's no reason to go to MDR because that would allow math 30 times 4 would be 240. Is that something? That doesn't sound right.
And we have something that we can definitely look at also with this,
She
you know,
sounds like she's.
his site plan, what he's proffering, and that would be secured with that zone change at the city council level. But it's a discussion that we can have offline.
What's do you know the height requirement on that?
30.
35. 30 for LDR, I think it's 45 for MDR. So the height might be the determining factor.
Yeah, if we're 3, I don't know, it'd be close.
And that was my other question, probably for Aaron, is where do we start that measurement? Is it the lowest point of university or is it?
No, it's from the finished floor area, from the dirt.
Rich,
I have a question online. I'm curious what the SWIP for this development will be. The stormwater, what's SWIP stand for?
Stormwater prevention, something like that. But yeah, that's the way
Yeah.
down the line.
Okay,
it will be
they
on.
were just concerned because of other properties that have had problems?
You know, there's a benefit there just in the geology of it's a gravel pit, that's permeable, water soaks down through it, so there's I don't know, we're not dealing with mud, there's no topsoil, we're way below the topsoil here, so that's a benefit.
What's the square footage of your units gonna be and about what price do you think? You're gonna go at?
The way they're drawn up now, they'll be about 2,500 square feet each, and I don't know about pricing.
But that is something city council always asks is, will they be owner occupied or will they be rented? Yeah.
Yes, I guess that's a different question
It
then.
is, but I mean,
So,
along those lines.
Yeah.
Your
So I
point
don't,
is-
I guess, you know, I've always thought owner occupied here is what I'm designing. This isn't a project that I'm gonna keep. I do need a construction partner still, so I don't have that information.
Another question about utilities, whoever wants to answer this, but part of the discussion before was that with the more units, there was a likelihood of developer improving the water line and the connection down canyon that loops that system so that they get better water in that area. Does this do any of that? Or did we lose that because we went down in units?
I don't think we have an answer to that yet at this stage.
The project that we submitted brings the water down Canyon Road. I assume we'll have to, I don't know this. That's the way we have it drawn up. I don't know what there's a 6-inch line already in the area, but we would need to bring, my understanding is an 8-inch line down Canyon Road. As far as looping, they'll be right there. I don't think looping's a problem. My only question would be, do we need to increase that 6-inch line? I don't know. The guarantee, I should just not said anything.
Is the stoplight foregone thing on University Avenue there? Is that already in the plan? Or is this necessitating the stoplight so that people can have access into this?
So UDOT has already programmed the traffic light at 5600 North. That is coming online in the next little bit. The big loop road he showed is a ways out, but the traffic light is the first phase, and that's coming on in the next year or two. I think that if you go to the UDOT website right now, there's information on that, and there's an email to give comments or concerns to UDOT about that exact issue.
So is this project necessitating?
It is not. No, that was in the works before this.
Great question.
Are there any other questions before we? Concerns? Rachel, are we bothering to do a poll on this?
That is purely up to the chair.
Can I
Yes,
make one
Matt.
more
Yes,
comment?
please.
So I really like this plan. Congratulations. I think this is acknowledges a lot of the concerns you heard before. I know there's probably a reaction to the sewer line as well, but if the zoning gets changed to this, I think what you just said, just to confirm, is that this plan is now attached to it, so this would be what would get built? Or is there a risk that someone else down, you know, a few years down the line, market changes, comes back and says, now I want to build the whatever MDR is 30 units an acre?
Yeah, good question. Anytime we get a concept plan that's not reaching the full capacity of what the zone would allow, we lock that down into the development agreement. So that would be tied to the zone change.
And, you know, again, I've obviously tried to put more units here than what I'm proposing now, and we've looked at different layouts and, you know, I mean, maybe if we did really well, we'd go to 18 from 16, but even that, we just didn't feel, we couldn't get this product, right? It would be a different product. That's what would have to go there.
So Aaron, is that the case even if he sells the property, would the next owner be tied?
Yeah, it's tied to the property title.
Question about the trail. You own the property on top of the trail, but your plan is to not do anything with that property. Is there a guarantee for that?
Is there a guarantee? So I would say this before I offered to give the city an easement on the trail there. And I think I still think that's the right thing to do. So I think that in conjunction with this, that would be a fair thing to do. My wife and I use the Bonneville Shoreline Trail all the time. There's nothing to be built there. I don't know what you can, I don't know of anything you can do there besides walk on a trail. So.
Trail is really important. There are some landowners in Provo who have moved the trail, or they've put their own property on top of the trail and moved the trail higher, which has been problematic in several areas, as long as it stays open.
The current zone is A15 and it would stay A15 on that parcel. The 5 means you have to have 5 acres in order to build on it. So as soon as, you know, this other property is rezoned, that 1 acre something would no longer be large enough to build a home on anyway. I don't know what else you can do to it.
About the rezone? Well, this is a record.
If the poll's gonna be favorable, I'm all in favor.
Not getting more here.
And I mean, Aaron, you mentioned this could be an offline discussion, but I would be curious about the LDR zone. It would give me less heartburn and more security, but I said I would have more comfort level with the LDR zone because your project fits in it, I believe, but it sounds like that depends on where you start measuring your elevation. So I don't know that. Okay, we're gonna take a poll. Does anybody, let's start out with, want to suggest what you want the record to reflect as far as, yes, Laura?
Maybe it could be something along the lines of approving a zone change that has the lowest density possible to accommodate the project.
Okay, I like that. In fact, I love it. All those in favor of this project, no. How did you say it?
Proposing a change in
Proposing a zone, a change in the zone, this is the
that
smallest,
has the lowest
lowest
density
density
that accommodates.
that accommodates the project. Did our note taker get that?
The alternative is no, we're not in.
You're not in
No
favor of any change, right? And we can ask another question if you're okay with the MDR change too. Yes, Paul?
I'm just
He's
waiting.
getting ready to count. Okay, all those in favor of the lowest density zone change to meet this current proposed project?
Okay.
All right, all those in favor of no zone change, I guess, would be another option
Against doing.
against doing it. So no zone change at all. Okay, and anyone in favor of just going straight for the MDR zone? You don't live in the
That's a
neighborhood,
different
sorry.
question, but I mean.
It is a different question. That's why I wanted to know if anybody was okay with just straight for the MDR, because that is what's
Based on what you
proposed.
said, I'd be in
Okay,
favor.
with what Aaron said, I'm okay with the MDR change.
Me too.
If we felt
It's not
secure
needed,
about the
then-
development agreement.
If
I
the
see
city
development agreement
saying what
here,
you're saying,
so
I'd be.
I'm concerned.
What is that?
What's what?
The M.
Medium density residential has its set of codes, which for the city, I looked this up, it would be 30 units an acre, 45 feet high, setback is 20 feet. They can only cover 50% of the lot, and they can only, they have to have 90 feet deep, but that's true of all the zones. The LDR only allows 12 units per acre, a 30-foot building height, and that's why I'm harping on where we started to count, because the road you're proposing is much higher than University Avenue anyway, so maybe we start counting from there. Which would get us that lower density. Setbacks are the same. But the number of units per building, they can have 8 in an MDR and only 6 in an LDR, which is what he's proposing, actually less than that, so.
Maybe just on the building height, I feel like could be an issue.
Right.
Partly is what kind of roof are we gonna put in? I don't wanna have flat roofs on this. But you can see the picture I showed there showed more of a peak on there. And also, you know, that might restrict me as far as height on each level. And obviously if the main level has you know, 12-foot ceilings instead of 9-foot ceilings. That's really nice for the people living there. And if we're gonna be at 32 feet because of that, to me, that's worth it, right? But I just don't want that to limit it.
It sounded to me earlier like the sewer capacity and planning for the sewer capacity was the limiting factor.
It
So
was.
even if someone proposes additional units, as it sounds like maybe was previously done, it sounds like it wouldn't be possible.
It would have to go through the process again, and we would have to, know that Aaron's still here and understands the sewer capacity, right? If somebody else is working in the office and doesn't comprehend, or simply, right, if that's far enough down the road, it's been forgotten about at that moment. So those are my concerns, having watched different projects. Rachel, somebody online?
Sorry, we had a vote online for the lowest, the
The
very
first
first one we
question?
did, yes, in favor of
This
that.
one?
So just one.
Okay, well, we're even ahead of schedule, so,
I'd like to say thanks to him.
yes, thank you
making this
for being considering
adjustment.
even
Thank you.
making it so much smaller. We appreciate it.
You make it look like that last picture.
Right?
The blue,
Really?
that's my least favorite
Oh,
one.
no.
The blue brick. I don't even know if they make blue brick. I don't know. I had that in there and I was like, I don't know why I put the slide in here. I think the only thing I was trying to show there is that shorter driveway space that I was proposing on the east side. So I'm like, well, this is useful because of that. Still, I don't like that building.
I like the other better too.
I like this one because of the stoops that are there. You know, there's a benefit in having stairs up to it. There's just some design benefits with the outside stairs, so.
I was just curious, you said you'd give the city an easement on the property above to the Bonneville Trail. Why not sell that to the city or somebody so it's sort of completes that trail rather than just having an easement?
It's for sale.
Okay, we're ahead of time just a little bit, but I saw Richard Jensen in the building. If he's ready for his discussion on safety on 2200 North, we have a PowerPoint presentation. I'm gonna turn the time over to Richard Jensen.
Will it be helpful if another participant comes?
Yeah.
Really close to your mouth. And Rachel, tell us if this is echoing.
Okay.
Thank you. We had an incident a couple of weeks ago that precipitated this. I'd like to show the next slide. This is, we think in our next neighborhood meeting that we're going to serve donuts in with this. And I'd like to have Jeff Larson, in whose yard this accident occurred, tell us just briefly what happened and also show the next slide.
Yeah, so a couple of weeks ago, on Sunday morning, we had this truck hit into the fire hydrant that you saw on the previous slide. They were heading eastbound and they fell asleep at the wheel, going very fast, fast enough to, after having hit that fire hydrant, it swung sideways. Fortunately, instead of crashing into our house, it swung sideways and just kind of scraped across our lawn on the rims of the passenger wheels there. And so that's how we found it that morning. It was really loud. It sounded, when I heard it from the back of the house, it sounded like a drive-by shooting is one of my first thoughts. So I ran out there and found the truck in that condition. Kind of
Narrowly missing your house and stopping just short of a big pine tree in my yard. So, and this is one of dozens of accidents that have happened here within recent memory, though we don't necessarily get them in the police reports. We have 4 incidents reported in police reports for the last 3.5 years, and we're trying to gather data that actually shows more accurately the kinds of things that have happened. So here are some concerns that we have. in the neighborhood. Speeding in this case, if these people had hit their brakes on a road, with skid marks going 150 feet, 130 feet after impact, they might have been traveling, say, 50 miles an hour. This is going sideways for the last part of this and really gouging the lawn, so I don't know. Just one of these things, and so this happens. And there's a lot of speeding, and we don't see much enforcement. There are children crossing the street, elementary and middle school, within blocks of this. There's a half mile between the crosswalks on 2230, 2200 North, which is quite a distance. And so people tend to want to cross the street in some other way than going to these intersections. And some of this is very dangerous specifically because of a rather steep hill that cuts visibility, and then there's a turn in the road. And so you don't have very much notice if you're a child crossing the street and trying to figure out whether a car is actually coming over the brink of the road and is going to turn and hit you. But children do it anyway. Scooters and bicycles are being very heavily used in this area, increasingly. Scooters, motorized scooters, motorbikes, this kind of thing, and there's really not provision for them. The other day, my wife was walking to the mailbox up the sidewalk in front of her house and was going to go right to the right to catch the mailbox, and a bike almost hit her, going at a high speed, rather high speed, up to the right, to her right. It would be helpful if something could be done to address the needs of scooters and bicyclists and in connection to that also pedestrians. Now, the Provo City Master Plan, next slide, says this is a capacity and safety improvement project, increasing capacity at 2230 North from Canyon Road east to Timpview Drive. That's the area that we're concerned with a yet to be defined modified arterial cross section. In addition, yet to be defined safety improvements will be needed for bicyclists and pedestrians. Now, we believe that increasing the capacity and safety improvements are basically incompatible. And we would like to have an opportunity to discuss that. We are a neighborhood, and we would like to be treated like a neighborhood. And I don't know, you people are probably familiar with the ways in which the concept of neighborhood and what it means somehow interact with the rather mechanistic planning that can go on. I hope that there will be a human component that will consider the value of neighborhoods and of the feeling of community that comes with this. And so we cross the street to take jam to our neighbors. We cross the street, go to a choir practice. These are the kinds of things that we do in our neighborhood. And we would like it to be respected as a neighborhood and not just as a highway. So we would like to have some kind of input in connection with this. Now, so here are the kinds of things that we would like to see done. Reduce the speed, protect pedestrians and cyclists and scooter people, reduce the throughput and maintain the feeling of neighborhood. Right now for this meeting, we're looking at kinds of things we'd like to suggest in the near term. What can we do that might impact this, the safety? And do we unconsciously develop this sort of feeling of inevitability? There are going to be these terrible accidents because of, say, human error, and that's just the way the street is designed, or we hope that it's not inevitable. We'd like to see better traffic enforcement. Once it becomes known that there's some enforcement, I think it tends to have an effect. This is one flashing speed limit check sign that's at the bottom of this steep hill. And that's a good thing because people coming down the hill realize, I'm starting to pick up my speed, maybe I'll hold it down. But that in itself, we don't think is sufficient, and we'd like to see signs in both directions as you enter the neighborhood, not just as you end up seeing how fast you're speeding at a key point.
We need to flip the slide, I think.
Okay.
There we go.
Okay, thank you. We would like to see at least one signal crosswalk with a refuge island. And bike lanes or widen the sidewalks to 5 feet so that both my wife and the cyclists have room on the sidewalk. I don't know about cycle speed limits on sidewalks. That would be another issue, I suppose. So, pardon?
That's our next discussion, actually, when we're done.
Okay. So, University Parkway is a wonderful way to get to the places on the east side of Provo. Much better than 2230, 2200 North. No residential driveways in that section at all of University Parkway, whereas there are more than 40 residential driveways plus others in the area that we're talking about. And I would suggest that this really needs serious consideration. Can we not find ways of funneling more of this traffic onto University Parkway? Another thing that we would like to do is to protect the feeling of the neighborhood. Go ahead, please. Next slide. Is to protect mature trees from being crashed into and from being demolished for wider streets. We would also like to see, we see here the next sign, the walking neighborhood. We'd like to see some Pleasant View neighborhood signs that will give people a feel for what, for the fact that it is a neighborhood. You know, sometimes I must confess that I found myself maybe in the same situation that a lot of people are on traveling 2200 North. I like to go up Hollow Creek Canyon, and I find myself frustrated that going through something like a mile of neighborhood, I have to go 25 miles an hour. Terrible, isn't it? I mean, they deserve it. They deserve, I deserve as a driver to go there pretty fast so I can get Hollow Creek Canyon and forget these folks. Well, I think I need to swallow that attitude and develop the attitude that neighborhoods are worth preserving and respecting. So that's my presentation. I welcome comments. We intend to have a neighborhood meeting in 2 weeks at the Provo Fire Station number 22 on Canyon Road, 7 o'clock on Wednesday, the 22nd, at which we would intend to go into this in greater detail and discuss more of the possibilities.
Do we have access to these slides so we can put them in the?
Yes, yes.
Sure, can I ask a question with a comment?
Yeah, we
Someone
have a
that's
question
welcome.
online saying, I want to know if the city is still looking at putting a light in at the intersection of 2200 North and 2320 North. We have been working on this for 7 years. We have both school community councils on board with this. So we will forward that to the traffic.
So there's a wide intersection there of 2230 and 2200. As you're going up the hill, you go to the left towards Centennial Middle School and Rock Canyon Elementary School, or you continue more or less straight up the hill to the residential area.
Now, did you have a question?
Yeah, so that was maybe my question. I thought that was actually happening. Is that not actually happening?
Well, I think that's what they're asking. I'm not sure. So I will forward that question to the traffic manager.
I thought, the gentleman has come to this meeting some months ago, Vern, and suggested that was in progress, because that would definitely help with some of this. My other comment is, having studied roads in my PhD program, with that suicide lane down the middle, there's a lot of flexibility to do a lot of neat stuff that would help you a lot. But it would consequently be getting rid of that. I'm curious for those who live there, would you be comfortable, like, I don't know the history of that road before. Is that something you'd be willing? Because when you have to stop to turn into a driveway, it's potentially a little unsafe, but it slows everybody down a lot. I just would like to know how you feel about if that was.
Can I make a comment, Richard?
Go ahead, Doug.
So I been working with Richard on this particular presentation, and on since we moved in 2018, I helped work on the transportation master plan as representing our neighborhood. And at that time, we proposed a median, a narrower median instead of a third lane, and take some of that space also out of bike lanes. And I think that most of the people who live on that street were in favor of something like that. The biggest concern of that is, how do you turn around to get to your house if you come in the wrong direction? And so whatever we do there, we'd have to come up with some way of creating a U-turn. Now, in that particular design proposal that we as a community created, we looked at roundabouts, one at North Temple and one at 2320 as an alternative for that. But that's, again, those are just some big ideas that we talked about. What we don't want to do is, we don't want the city seeing this street as inevitably 5 lanes. The original, at the time, the transportation master plan had it. Richard gave us that, showed you that language. It's in the master plan now. The original language said this is a widening project to 5 lanes. We worked very hard with the transportation committee to change that language to say safety improvements instead of widen to 5 lanes. We just want to change how Richard said it, the inevitable idea that growth requires that this street becomes 5 lanes. We don't think that's the case. We think it would be unsafe. We think it would be bad for the neighborhood. It's not like 800 where they added that roundabout, honestly.
Yeah.
There's a lot of similarity here.
So 800 is, so anytime we talk about 2200 North, we also should be talking about 800 North, because the city has the same plans for 800 North as it does for 2200. That is to widen it to 5 lanes. Again, that would utterly destroy the neighborhood character of both locations. So what we're trying to do is to try to say, this is not inevitable, a widening project. There are other options that we need to be considering instead of just the throughput option, which is what's been the city's primary concern.
So who calls on people to?
You, Richard, go.
Okay, yes.
Oh, you might find a comment. I'm kind of surprised it's not 25 miles an hour already. If Timpview Drive is 25 miles an hour and other residential streets. 30 is too fast for that area, and I live on 700 East, which is off of 2200, and the problem with people going too fast, it's trickling out to other streets. I've had so many near misses trying to back out of my driveway because people are coming around really fast and they're trying to miss the light. So they kind of go very quickly down our street, and there's so many children who are coming to and from school. And so I think a really good solution kind of immediately is to lower the speed limit and monitor, enforce it.
So
What is it now? Is it 30?
It's 30.
35 now. Oh, no, 30.
30.
30, yes,
And people don't usually go, they usually don't.
right. And so Diana, in connection with your comment, you live across the street from the place where a car coming around the bend hit the garage, not of the first house on your street, but of the second house on your street, Bonnie, what's her name? Bonnie Turner's house, crashing into her garage because it just couldn't make the turn. Yes,
What's the speed limit coming from 9th East
35 until you get close
to the stoplight?
to the stop. Well, it's about,
The turn in front of the MTC.
Yeah.
Correct.
okay, so this is about 2 blocks of 30 before you hit.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna be there for this meeting, but I live in Pleasant View. I like the idea of 25 because I think psychologically, when you see 25, you immediately think there must be kids around, right? But 30, like I will admit, I've totally, you get going and if you don't get stopped at the stoplight, like you can just keep going down the hill. Like you don't even think, that's just how we drive now. But I cross that stoplight all the time because my child goes to Rock Canyon. So if there was 25 and it was like very enforced, I totally think that I, as a driver, would pay way more attention to that.
Thank you.
So we live across the street from that flashing sign. And we often will, as we're waiting to cross the street, I go out there with my children to help them cross the street. The advantage though is that we do have lights that cause gaps. And we joke that that's when we can talk to our neighbor because when there's cars going by, we'll be yelling and you can't hear them. Anyhow, but as we're waiting and we're trying to gauge those gaps and they're coming around the corner and down the hill, that sign is never reading 30 and yet people are still on their brakes. So they are going too fast for that corner, or maybe they see it and they're like, oh, I'm speeding, and they slam on their brakes, but they are slowing down. But even we'll see a big gap and we'll think, oh, we can go. And then somebody comes whipping up. And by the time that gap is to our house, that car has caught up. They don't leave any gaps. I have never seen, and I'm not out there all the time, but I have never seen any enforcement on that street. There is a sign for the downhill, but there's nothing for the uphill. And like I said, there's no enforcement. I know that you can do photo enforcement. So is that what we need to do? Because it is very challenging for the on-street parking. We do have people do on-street parking, but even for a policeman to be on-street parking, like it would be a challenge to enforce it, I say, with a police officer.
I got a speeding ticket about 25 years ago.
Okay.
Any comment here?
I think traffic enforcement in Provo really needs to be looked at. I see it all over the city. Cars going faster than the speed limit. And I didn't used to when I was younger, man, this would have been okay. But now that I'm older and more sensible, I wonder, why don't we have a police presence? Where are the police in Provo City? I don't see them on the streets unless there's an accident. I don't see them enforcing speed limits anywhere in Provo. If you've seen it, tell me where it is, but I think that's an issue for all of our neighborhoods and for the city in general. And University Avenue, the speed limit went to 45 on that. Cars pass me going 60 all the time, and I try to hold it to 45 or so, and cars are just whizzing by, and I haven't seen any enforcement on University Avenue. I haven't seen a police car there. So I think that's a general issue that as a neighborhood or a district, we ought to try to raise with the city. Where are the police?
Rachel has a comment.
Yes, Rachel.
Oh, okay. This is a comment online. Says the lane merge after the Canyon Road intersection in front of my home on 2230 North has resulted in several serious accidents in the decade I've lived here. There are frequent near accidents and horn honking as well. There's no signage to warn drivers of the merge.
True.
Thank you. Doug?
So I just wanted to make a lot of these comments have to do, or lowering the speed limit and enforcement, which I'm totally in favor of. So I don't want this comment to come off as like, I don't think we need to do both of those things. But the reality is people drive based on the way the road is designed. And that road feels safe faster than 25 miles an hour because it's designed that way. And some of the things that we're trying to propose here is to change the physical design of the road so it doesn't feel safe to drive that fast anymore. And by putting in the signaled crosswalk with a island refuge is an element that we could relatively inexpensively put into the road to change the nature, the design of the road to make it feel less safe. So I think that as we look for solutions for this, I'm 100% on board. Let's get enforcement, let's lower the speed limit. But anything we can do to change the character of the street by making it feel less safe to drive that fast will help.
I want to say amen to Doug, who is our resident architect. So he's speaking as a neighbor and also from a point of expertise.
Jeff, you had a comment?
Yeah, just going along with that, like, I don't know how feasible it would be, but adding in speed bumps, I think there's, or dips even. It's obnoxious, but as somebody who lives on that road, I would prefer that to being able to drive really fast on that road.
You have,
How about speed bumps?
Well, that was-
Oh, that's what he said.
the city doesn't like speed bumps. They say they're a terrible thing, but I don't know.
They make it really difficult for snow
Snow
plows.
plow.
Yes,
I was just gonna say where they put that crosswalk with the median on Canyon Road, just north of Days Market, it really did change the speed of traffic significantly. People see and recognize we're still in a neighborhood, children cross here, there are schools up ahead. I think that has been really effective.
That's a great
From the
example.
perspective of school safety, we've seen people feel a lot safer with their kids on that road, just that one installation there by Ripples.
well,
So I'm gonna push back on that one because I drive Canyon constantly. I have not seen a reduction in speed. And in fact, if anything, I had a car breakdown right there the other day and I couldn't get around him now. So because there's concrete in the middle of the road, I can't go around. So I would push back on the concrete. I like the idea of a stoplight. I don't know about this island thing unless there's a lot of room to still get around if we have an accident or
I
something.
don't know. I drive it every day too, so maybe it's just the time of day,
It
but
is the
I
time
have
of day.
felt like it was effective. So
Thank you.
that would be worth getting data on.
Jackie,
So I wanted to just add a couple more comments. So I do use that suicide lane to turn into my driveway, which is great because then the other cars can still pass. I'm not holding up traffic as I wait for the cars on the other side. However, as I go into that lane, you'd be surprised how many cars are not driving in the lane. They are going into the median because there's on-street parking. So they do not feel safe driving 30 miles an hour or even 25 miles an hour on that road unless they give themselves more space. So I'm not saying I'm opposed to an island, but I think if we put in an island that isn't the size of a suicide lane, they're gonna end up with additional room to drive. So I don't know that that alone will slow them down or make them feel like it's not safe because they're already encroaching into that middle lane just in their everyday driving because they're going so fast and they want to give themselves more space.
So a couple of things to this, and I wondered, so part of this discussion, you should understand, they're taking notes. They will go back to Vern Kessler, who's our traffic manager for the city. He is planning to do a traffic study, and he wanted to kind of know where to focus his efforts. So that's part of why we're letting this discussion go. I know Rachel's taking notes, I know Paula's taking notes. So ideas are great at this point. I wanted to throw ideas out there as Marion and I deal with the light at the country club is the easiest way to put it, off of 140 East. Because what we see being on that section of this road is that they come down that road, they turn on Canyon Road, and then they take that. It's this whole little cutoff that somehow is faster. It's not, but that's what they're doing. So maybe if we can get Vern to restripe what we've asked him to restripe, possibly. I wondered if there's a way to submit a report to Google. And obviously the people who do this regularly aren't gonna look at Google, they aren't going to care, but this is only gonna get worse. Again, as the temple is rebuilt, once that becomes a destination. That maybe we submit something to Google that says, take the parkway. I mean, off the form, you could take the parkway and turn left, and then turn left again in front of the MTC, and you're at the temple or you're leaving the temple that way. I know that's why they've widened it. I know that's why they put a double left turn lane. But I know even as I drive it, oh, I could turn left or I could go straight. This light's green.
did I see a question before? Were you raising your hand? No, okay.
Why don't we have Vern come to these and somebody else in the city who has some power to do something, so they're here, present, and hear these?
Sincerely, I would send an email. I would ask Lynn and Richard Richard to send an email to invite them to your meeting on the 22nd. Vern Kessler or Gordon Haight is over. Either of those people would be good people to have at that meeting to listen to these
Yeah,
discussions.
they need to be there.
I don't know if they're required, but I would invite them. Yes.
I just want to build off what you said. I think the least expensive, easiest thing to try first is to change the timing of the light at 9th East and University Parkway. to favor the left-hand turn signal versus the straight turn signal. If people will learn that there's going to, that will be a longer, you're gonna get more green arrow than you are straight.
Yes.
Then more people will start using 2200 Parkway, and that's almost zero cost. That's somebody changing some timing on a light to see if that can help.
So these are such good ideas. We love them. We're gonna have more of them and discuss these ideas in more in depth at this second meeting. And also, we encourage you to, be thinking of other things next time you're driving there. Think, oh, well, hey, what about this? Because we're gonna really get into it at this meeting. I will add that I lived on that street for 30 years and I never saw you get that ticket 25 years ago. I never saw a single person stop for speeding. Maybe it happened when I was gone to work. I don't know, but what we're seeing now on that street is it used to be full of families and people my age, Richard's age, the Isaacson's age, and it now has people like Jeff's family with a tiny new baby and every child. I mean, it's turned into a street because it is a neighborhood street, a street with small children, small tiny children living on that street, as well as medium-sized children like Jackie Lewis has. But it is not a place where only older people live or singles or 3 unrelated people, though I guess there are some of those. Anyway, but it really is a neighborhood street with families, with children and even really small children.
Can I add kind of a closing there? The best way to help enforce without a badge or any, consequence is for us as citizens to drive the speed limit. So we are often the most guilty of hurrying on our way as we are in the most comfortable places, including our neighborhoods. And so I would encourage all of you to maybe take note of those speed limit signs and ensure that you are kind of setting that pace for others. I have a lot of people riding my tail and doing other things as I try to stay at that 30 miles an hour. And that's my way of trying to maybe teach or encourage other people to pay attention to what speed they're driving. So I think that is the best way that we as citizens can help support, is that we ourselves are driving the speed limit as we go to and from.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Richard.
Thank you, Richard, and Pleasant View Neighborhood. So many of you turning out, giving us your comments. We're gonna move, and I think it's frankly related a little bit to the next topic. Is the legality of golf carts, e-bikes on public roads, sidewalks, trails. We're gonna turn the time over to Rachel. We don't have a ton of time for this. And then she's gonna go straight into how to access property records on county and city websites. We're supposed to start open public comments about 7:30, and it's currently 7:10. So, Rachel, I don't know how much discussion you want on this, or if you're just gonna give us the spiel.
I'll just kind of give you the spiel, and then if you have questions, it's pretty straightforward. So your ATVs, your UTVs, your side-by-sides, motorcycles, dirt bikes, e-dirt bikes are allowed on the road if they're licensed, registered, and insured. So, with the license plate on that. They're allowed on off-highway vehicle trails. The only one I could find here in our area is Keith Peak. And then of course, on private property with permission. And they are not allowed at Provo City Parks, on sidewalks, on walking trails, and on the Provo River Trail. And they're also not allowed on roads if they're not licensed, registered, or insured.
Rachel, golf carts count in that list?
We will get to golf carts. So that's just those type of vehicles. So next we have pedal bikes, that's your normal bicycle, e-bikes and e-scooters are allowed on sidewalks, but there is a speed limit, 10 miles per hour. They're allowed on roads, they're allowed on the Provo River Trail, again, a speed limit. They have to go under 15 miles per hour, and they're allowed on private property with permission. So these kind of bicycles and scooters are not allowed on sidewalks on Center Street and University Avenue in the downtown area where there's lots of pedestrians. So they're not allowed on those sidewalks because there's just too many people on the sidewalks. And they're not allowed on park turf or on walking trails. But they are allowed on regular sidewalks, but under 10 miles an hour. And then here we go, the golf carts. Golf carts are allowed on private property with permission and at golf courses. They are not allowed on roads, sidewalks, parks, walking trails, the Provo River Trail. There is no on-road permission in Provo City for golf carts. So none of those that you see those 10-year-olds driving around like they do in my neighborhood, none of those are allowed. Oh, question, yes.
So you're talking about 10-year-olds driving. Who is allowed to drive these other things that do go on the roads?
Well,
Can you have a 10-year-old driving on the road if they're on one of these allowed vehicles?
well, they have to be licensed.
There are age limits depending on the size on an e-bike,
On
for
the
example.
e-bike, right.
It depends on the size of the motor on that e-bike determines the age limit. So a lot of them that you see with 14, 15-year-olds, actually you have to be older than that to be driving those, but that's really hard to enforce. But there are age limits on the e-bike.
Yeah, on the e-bike.
On
They
the
have to
power
have
on
a
the bike.
regular License to do it.
Depends on the power of the bicycle. So
Yeah, there's-
the law is
there's
really
all these-
specific about
All
tiered.
these levels.
Yeah, different
It's a little
levels
bit
too.
too hard to put on a
Yes.
easy to read.
But the city has code on it.
Right. But no golf, unless you're on a golf course, you should never see a golf cart driving around.
What do we do? 'Cause we see, you just said, we all see these. What do we
Yeah,
do?
we all see them. We all see them. So, and this is the hard part. Because you can call the police non-emergency dispatch number. Just realized I wasn't sharing my screen for the people on Zoom, sorry. So you can call the non-emergency dispatch number. By the time the police come, they're long gone, right?
Right.
You can make a report online, you can call 311. But the problem is they're gonna be gone before anything happens. So what we need to do is if there's a pattern. If you're seeing the same kid riding their golf cart to school every day. Or driving to church in their golf cart. Or the same person on their motorcycle on the trails or anything like that. If you see a pattern, please report that. Because then the police can be there waiting for them.
And what are the consequences?
It varies, depends on what it is that they're doing, different levels, like if you're riding your bike on the grass at a park as compared to. I think most of them are just infractions, like I think
So a citation that has a fee associated with it?
it might, I'm not sure, I didn't look into that.
Well, I think that it would be useful to warn neighbors.
Right.
That what you're doing isn't legal and the potential outcome is, and tell them.
Right.
A fee, imprisonment, whatever it is.
Provo City make an exception for BYU.
Well, that's
Around
private
BYU, there are a lot of carts.
Yeah,
aren't-
that's private property.
No,
It's-
these are on Canyon Road. These are on Stadium Avenue. These are on University Parkway.
Oh.
Many of these are
BYU.
licensed vehicles.
Yeah.
They do have golf cart, tour golf carts.
Provo makes an exception for the noise ordinance for BYU, so I guess they've done the same for,
That's a good
So they-
question to ask.
okay,
Good
good.
question to ask.
Because they're on the road quite a bit.
So they're on the public road.
They're on Canyon Road,
Canyon Road, Stadium Avenue.
Stadium Avenue, University Parkway.
Probably 9th East.
Those are the ones I've seen.
A lot of times it's groundskeepers, they're the cleaning
Right.
crew.
And I've seen, like Provo City's groundkeepers, they'll have like a side by side, but there's a license on it.
A lot of them are licensed. I don't know all of them.
So that's something to look for to see if it's licensed. I had someone asking what's the code, what's the city code? I can look that up. We are currently, I'm working with the police department and our media team to put together an informational video to send out to the city and maybe the school, kind of explaining the rules. Cause it's complicated. There's a big chart. And you know the chart I'm talking about, Sharon, that was so convoluted, like no one could figure it out
Well,
because.
even after seeing it, there were still many questions, so.
Right. Yes.
So is there any way of providing training for these cyclists and scooter people so that they know the protocols and what's safe and what's polite?
We have talked, I know they've talked about it, Bike Walk Provo has done a couple of training things. I think do the schools still do a bike safety?
Yeah. They do a bike to school week, which would be a great time. My
Right.
children haven't mentioned anything about
Different schools. will do-
informational or
yeah.
training, but they
Some
definitely.
schools have a
encourage them.
bike fair, some schools, it's kind of up to how they plan that bike to school week, but
Yeah.
this last year, we gave out suggestions on the new policies that the school district had around bikes and e-bikes and scooters on school property, hoping that that would get pushed out, but we need to do better with it,
And maybe there can be flyers or handouts that then go home.
for sure.
Because like I said, my children may have gotten something, but I didn't hear. So I don't know to help enforce some of that.
That's great feedback.
So we could try to do this. We didn't do our annual neighborhood party this year. It landed on the mayor's popsicle night and I let it go. But we could try to do something in the spring, or we could try to do something next fall and we could have a booth or some kind of an education we could combine with some kind of a bike fair with the schools. Because I agree, I feel like at this point, education is the biggest part of this. I know when I've hiked on different trails, and obviously different levels of trails, maybe we need to come up with something in city code that teaches the etiquette. I know when I've been on different trails, it says, like the horses have the right of way here. If there's a horse, get yourself off the trail. And obviously that's not quite how it says it, but there's a hierarchy kind of thing. And if we teach that to our cyclists, I almost don't have a problem with my child being on the sidewalk if he's learned to be polite to the pedestrians and not just run them down. Right, so it's because I don't really want him in the street necessarily, depending on the street. Richard?
No, Provo City has a parkway that comes from Wolf's Pit Stop, clear up to Canyon Road, and they have lanes for bikes and lanes for walking. And when they merge, there's a sign that says yield to pedestrians.
Right, so something like that. I know when Rachel mentioned that they were gonna do something with the city, trying to get out education, I said it needs to be as cute and memorable as the Can commercial. I don't know, maybe you haven't seen the Can commercials, but it was adorable and it was memorable. And I shared it
I
everywhere.
did put that in my request, that it needed to be like the Can
And I've been on it a lot. And there's more bicycles on it. And electric bicycles on it than there are pedestrians. Even around the park that's is the new one, east of there, yeah.
Right, the Quail Orchard.
West of there, excuse me.
So part of this also comes down to, because we have a city councilor who rides her bike a lot, and has pointed out that if there is not a trail or a bike lane, that we as drivers need to be aware, it's perfectly legal for those cyclists to be sharing the road with you. Share the road. Don't be cranky and say you don't belong here. Share the road. So I think it's education on both our parts. Did you still have a comment?
Is it too vigilante to pull out our phones and take a photo?
I don't know that would do you any good, because like she said, by the time you report it and the police are gone, they're not gonna give a ticket based on that.
And
So I
there's
don't
not a
know.
license number or anything on these things.
Right.
so.
And to that, somebody else said something about a photo when we talked about speed limits. I would talk to your state legislators, because I heard because I asked about running stoplights. They said they pulled it based on not being able to face your accuser or something. I agree. I think that there's no reason not to have these photos. Doing it, but talk to your state legislator on that one. Somebody over here had a comment. Richard first and then.
Oh, and also clear up to Vivian Park. The trail is for
It's
cyclists
separated.
and pedestrians. And it's got lines on it where the people are to walk and where the cyclists are to go.
Matt, did you still come?
Yeah, I was gonna go back to kind of Doug's comment before. It's the same issue. If it's designed so that they can fly along, like I'm thinking of the Parkway Trail. I was on the road going about 45 and there was one of those they call it a bike, but it's a motorcycle. And it was going close to 45 and pacing me right along the side. But they put in, and I think it was because of one of the comments in one of these meetings, a bollard on the bridge between the park to the west, like Riverview Park, and the bridge that comes into my neighborhood. And instantly, anybody crossing it slows down. And half of the things stop crossing because it didn't make sense to have that bollard that pinches it. If we had bollards at periodic places, then those fast bikes are gonna slow down. The golf carts are gonna get off the road. I mean, I saw this morning going to work, a mom, it looked like a mom with 4 kids driving maybe to the swimming pool to the golf course on the trail. So they'd come out of close to a pit stop somewhere there, just cruising along. But there's no they're not gonna stop because we can't do anything. The cops aren't there to pull them over, and that's probably not a great use of their time anyway, but we need a way of designing this to slow them down and get the golf carts away. I'm gonna call that number next time the 10-year-olds of my neighbor show up with their yellow golf cart. It's all the time. Makes me crazy. And I'm actually worried that one of these points I'm gonna be at a stop sign and one of those electric bikes is gonna hit me in the side. And I had no idea they were there, they were coming, so.
Okay, so we have to turn this over to Rachel's.
I recommend BYU give that, that new course all freshmen have to take. Because a lot of these BYU kids are the ones speeding up and down these roads on those, whatever they're called. Maybe good that, because every freshman has to take that new course.
University 101. Yep. Sorry.
Hey, Rachel, we're gonna turn this over to your.
Okay, I had a request a couple of months ago to, like, how do you find property information? So one of the places you can find it is on the Provo City website. And if you just go on the website and you type in portal and any one of these, City View, Provo Web Portal, any of these portals, and if you click on it, and instead of signing in or doing any of this, you go right here where it says property search. So you click on property search, and then here you can put in any property. Let's say it's your own house, or say a house that you're thinking of buying or anything like that, and you want information on it. One thing is you have to put the address in a certain way. You can't, I don't know if you can even read that. You can't spell out north. You have to do like the N or the S, and then you click, it'll come up with the address and then click on it. And then here, let me try to make this bigger. And then here, it'll give you information. It's gonna give you the property number, the lot description, the year it was built. I'm just picking any random house. And this one, it looks like it was built in 1922. It'll show you, and this is one where this house has been, this is in the Joaquin neighborhood. It's been divided into 5 different apartments, this one house. And so, and then it'll show the property owner. And this is something interesting in that you can see, let's say the person has an ADU, you can see the property owner's address. And if they're not living in the house where there's an ADU, you're like, you're supposed to have the homeowner living in the house if there's an ADU. It's the way that you can tell that if you're suspicious of your neighbor. It'll tell you the zone. In this case, it's a residential conservation. And then here's the interesting part. So here is where you can find different city information, because this is the city website. So you can see if they have a license, if they have, maybe they have a home business. In this case, this person has a cleaning business out of their home, which is totally fine to have a little small business out of your home. You can also see what building permits they've taken out. This is really good on your own home or a home you're thinking of buying to see, did they get a permit for this addition? Did they get a permit for this electrical work? Because it might be kind of scary if they didn't. So it'll show you all the permits they had done. It'll show you the planning applications, like when they got rezoned and all of that. It'll also show you if they have a rental permit. So in this case, this person, I mean, it's 5 units in a single home. They haven't gotten a rental license since 2003. So that's maybe not a good example for me to show you, but have lots of records, but maybe this will make enforcement easy. But so that's how you can use the city website to find information on a property. Most people use it for their own property or for one they're interested in buying, but it could be you're nervous about a neighbor doing some work and you're thinking that looks like that electrical work might make my house catch on fire, and you can see if they have a permit. And yeah, so that's the city one. So there's lots of information on the city one. There's also the Utah County Land Records. I can never remember the website. I just put in Utah County Land Records. And then, and you can search by either a person's name. I do this all the time. I'm on my HOA and I have people who contact me and say, I don't know what parking space is mine. So I go and I search it on the land records because the CCNRs are also kept by the county, and then I can look it up. Or you could do, if you just click on Utah County Land Records, it gives you different choices. So you can do by name, you can do by address. So I'll just pick a random, I just picked another random address here. I like to pick these old ones. I'm not picking anything in your neighborhood, so. So you just kind of put in the number and then you have to put it, they have you do the address, really weird. And then, let's see. Whoops. 100 East, and then over here, you got to find this city. And then you can just look and search. And again, this is the county information. So here's this home. You click on this serial number. And it'll tell you the owner's name. And you click on this again. And here it kind of gives you that same information. It gives you the property address. It shows you the mailing address. So in this case, the mailing address and the property address are the same, which tells me that this is someone who lives in their own home because they're getting their property tax bill sent to that same address. And you can see a record of the owner's names. You can view the value history. This is really fun to see. So back in 1984, this home was worth $47,000. And now it's worth $398,000. You can check the tax history. I have a lot of people ask if, is so-and-so up to date on their taxes? And I'm like, check the county website, it'll tell you. And this person is, so don't worry. But you can also see the history, back in 1984, $410 in property taxes compared to, they're saying it's gonna be about $2,200 this year. And then you also have location here. It'll show you a map of where this home is located. This is really fun. If you live in a historic home, it'll show you photos. And sometimes it has really old photos of your home. And then here's where you find your documents, where your deeds, any of the, and this stuff, I never quite understand what it is. I always have to just click on everything until I find what it is I need. But But if you do need to look up your deed, you can click on that, do the document image viewer, and then it'll show you, it'll have the deed information or your CCNRs or whatever it is you're looking for if you had a question on any of your property information. But that's just kind of really quick, 2 different ways to find information about properties in Provo. You can either go on the county website that gives you a little bit more information, deeds, tax information, all of that, or the city one, which shows you permits, planning applications, licenses, stuff like that. So any questions on that?
Thank you.
Okay.
So we all start Googling our house.
I know, it's really fun. It's really fun to look up your home.
Okay. So we're supposed to adjourn about 7:45. This is open mic night. If you have any comments you want to make, we're gonna limit you to 2 minutes. State your name first, please. Go ahead. Sure.
Richard Isaacson, I'm wanting to discuss parking on Stadium Avenue close to Canyon Road at Pin Towers, that apartment complex that we struggled with, and we were guaranteed that it would be no parking, and it's marked no parking. Almost every day, you can see moving vans or delivery trucks parked very near to that intersection, so that as we come down the hill going west, we have to go out into the other lane to get around the truck to either turn right or left there. And I think it's becoming a hazard. And the signs are marked, do not park. I've never seen any kind of enforcement there. And once again, we're into enforcement of laws in the city of Provo. And how long do we have to tolerate this? It's a danger to have delivery trucks. There are places where they can pull in and park and load vans, moving vans, or make deliveries, and they don't. They park on Stadium Avenue. So how do we do something about that?
Did you have comments?
Yes. Just for your information, we have this nice little "Can I recycle?" It says that you can't recycle glass. Of course you can. Right over here.
Not yeah.
Right,
That's a informational for what you can put in your can. But yes, you can bring the glass down here to specific sites. Does anybody else have any public comment? And I was gonna ask our school board member if she wanted to give us a quick update since we aren't quite at 7:45.
Do I need a microphone or my
You
laptop?
should be able to hear you.
I'm Lisa Boyce. I represent District 1, which most of these neighborhoods are in anyway. But I think the most exciting thing to just tell everyone is that we just finally voted in a strategic plan from 2025 through to 2030 for the Provo City School District. This planning process involved a ton of community members, both stakeholders that were parents and teachers and administrators, but also a lot of business owners in Provo, et cetera. And we whittled it down to just 3 main priorities. We really want to be transparent with stakeholders all the way through. The first one is academic achievement and growth. That's our main job. And so we hope you'll watch for, and we'll put it everywhere we can, our baseline data. School report cards just came out with the state today. Look at how we're doing with growth and achievement and with each population in our schools. And then we have specific goals, and this is also how we'll evaluate how our employees, our superintendent and our administrators are doing is, are we staying on this plan? Are our students making the growth and achievement that they need to be making? We're also prioritizing safety and wellness of our students and our employees. When the community and parents were surveyed and students and teachers were surveyed, this continually kept coming back as everyone's top priority. And that just makes sense, right? If we don't feel safe at school, and if we aren't supporting wellness, people cannot do the teaching and learning they need to be doing in those environments. And then also really stewardship of resources. So where are we with the money that we collect from your property taxes? What are we doing with that? Do you feel like you have enough information about how that's being spent? Would you like more input? All of that. We want to be really clear with. This year we prioritized we're trying to keep more of our teachers in the 5-year to 15-year teaching. Does this make sense? Like people who've taught for 5 to 15 years. So in terms of a priority of where to kind of put raises this last year, we were able to use some things and give longevity bonuses post-dating back to make sure that teachers who stay longer in our district get bumps in compensation for that. But lots of things on the horizon about how to recruit and retain teachers here in Provo. So if you go to provo.edu, you can see a copy of that strategic plan. We're also looking to form a community, I don't know what it's going to be called yet, like a community advisory council, et cetera, that would just help us hear from community members when big decisions we know we're out on the horizon. So for example, Timpview High School and the construction going on. We're wrapping up a phase by mid-February. We have to make decisions about what we do next and what the timeline is and how that gets paid for. Dixon Middle School site, et cetera. So as those kinds of decisions, but also other decisions around budgeting and stuff come up, we need and want to be better partners with neighborhoods and with business owners and people here in Provo and work together with you guys that way. So that's the big update, I think, from us. And if someone has questions, I'm always happy to stay after and answer them, or you can always text or call or email me or any members of the.
What is your hat?
My hat, I'm just a school board member. Yeah. And a mom. Yeah, broken, you're right. And a teacher.
All right, thank you for coming. Rachel has a question or a comment.
I just want to make one comment really quick. A lot of our conversations were around police enforcement. You do have a COP officer, community oriented policing officer. His name is Officer Hutchinson, and let me blow this up so you can we can get that. So Officer Hutchinson, and let me bring this up. I don't know if you can see his phone number.
852-6257.
Yes. So.
And that's a city number. So if you call the city, you can also ask them for the.
Right.
To connect.
You can also call 311 and ask to speak to Officer Hutchinson. He's the officer over your area. So if you're wanting more patrols, if you're wondering why you're not seeing enforcement, he's kind of your first person to go to because his job is your district.
I just got a text from someone. I don't know if it's someone here or someone listening asking about the cell phone policy. Can I take one more second about that? So we ran a survey in the community. We had, I think, close to 2,000 survey responses from parents, teachers, students themselves, and community members that were surveyed around what we're looking to do with not just cell phones, but really any personal electronic device, whether that's a smartwatch, your earbuds, anything that could be a distraction in a learning environment. A lot of people in the country, I'm sure you've seen across the news, are handling this in a lot of different ways. That survey data can be parsed. If anyone's interested, I'd be happy to send it to you by parents, whether you're the parent of elementary students, a teacher, if you're the teacher of high school versus elementary or middle, the students at the different ages, and you can access, we're happy to share that data. We are at our next board meeting going to discuss the first draft of an actual policy. That draft will be read and discussed starting at 5 p.m. in our study session on the 8th of October. Then it will be on the website, and for 30 days, we will welcome feedback to it. We know we will get a lot because what we saw was that people are fairly aligned kindergarten through, even little less alignment in the middle school, but they're like a 50-50 split on how people think this should be handled in a high school setting. So we're going to put together a policy and present that, and then we'll listen to feedback. We'll make as many changes as we need to. There is a piece of legislation that will hit in this session. We can also share that with anyone who wants to see what's potentially the language that we've seen so far, and that could impact this policy, but we still think we need to be rolling something out in a thoughtful way. And our hope is to have that in place in our schools consistently in the district by January, if it's possible.
Thank you so much for coming. Look for the email with the slides to answer any questions or follow-up information.
Our next meeting is January, isn't
It is, thank you. Cole?
it? January 16th.
January
15th.
January 15th, our next District 1 meeting.